The sealed envelope had waited 27 years to reveal its secret. When Michael Jordan's father died in 1993, he left behind more than grief. He left behind a promise wrapped in yellowed paper and sealed with a son's tears. "Don't open this until you visit where our family began," James Jordan had whispered from his hospital bed. "Don't nun it until you see Tichy." Now, on a sweltering July morning in 2020, the most famous basketball player in the world sat in his car outside a small North Carolina town most people had never heard of. His hands trembled as he touched the envelope in his jacket pocket. Whatever was inside had the power to change lives forever. Michael had no idea that by sunset, every person in Tichy would be crying tears of joy. He had no idea that this forgotten little town was about to become the center of a miracle that would inspire the world. He only knew that today, finally, it was time to keep his father's promise. The July sun burned hot over Tichy, North Carolina. Sweat dripped down Dorothy Mae Jenkins' face as she sat on her front porch. At 78 years old, she had seen this small town change from busy to quiet. Too quiet. Dorothy Mae fanned herself with an old church program. The paper was worn soft from years of use. She remembered when Main Street was full of cars and people. Now, most stores had boards over their windows. The old cotton mill had closed 10 years ago. The chicken plant shut down 5 years back. Young folks moved away to find work in bigger towns. Only the old people stayed behind. Dorothy Mae looked down the dusty street. Weeds grew through cracks in the sidewalk. The old general store sat empty. Even the post office only opened 3 days a week now. A shiny black car turned onto her street. Dorothy Mae sat up straight. Nobody in Tichy drove a car that nice. The car moved slowly, like the driver was looking for something. The car stopped right in front of her house. Dorothy Mae watched as the driver got out. He was tall and moved like an athlete. He wore simple clothes, blue jeans and a white shirt. But something about him seemed important. The man walked up her front steps. He had kind eyes and a gentle smile. "Excuse me, ma'am," he said politely. "I'm looking for information about James Jordan Sr. He used to live here many years ago." Dorothy Mae's fan stopped moving. Her eyes grew wide. James Jordan Sr. had been her neighbor when she was young. He worked at the cotton mill and grew the best tomatoes in town. But he had been dead for over 50 years. "James Jordan Sr.?" she repeated slowly. "Why? That man's been gone since 1971. What do you want with him?" The tall man shifted his weight. He seemed nervous. "He was my grandfather. My father told me stories about this place. Said it was where our family learned what hard work meant." Dorothy Mae studied the man's face. Something clicked in her mind. The eyes, the way he stood, even his voice reminded her of someone. "Your grandfather?" she asked. "That would make your father James Jordan Jr." "Yes, ma'am. That's right." Dorothy Mae's heart started beating faster. "And you are?" The man looked down at his shoes, then back at her. "My name is Michael Jordan, ma'am." The church program fell from Dorothy Mae's hands. Michael Jordan, the basketball player she had watched on TV for years. The man who helped the Chicago Bulls win 6 championships. He was standing right here on her front porch. "Lord have mercy," she whispered. "You're really him?" Michael nodded. "Yes, ma'am. I know it might seem strange, me coming here like this. But I needed to see where my family's story began." Dorothy Mae tried to stand up, but her old legs felt shaky. Michael quickly moved to help her. "Don't you get up on my account," he said gently. "I just want to ask you some questions about my grandfather, about this town." Word traveled fast in small towns. Mrs. Peterson next door had been watering her flowers. She dropped her hose and ran inside. Within minutes, Dorothy Mae could see neighbors peeking out their windows. "Is it really true?" asked little Marcus Thompson, running up from across the street. "Are you Michael Jordan?" Michael smiled at the boy. "Yes, son, I am." More children appeared from nowhere like they always did when something exciting happened. Adults followed behind them, walking lowly but trying not to look too eager. "What brings you to Tichy?" asked Earl Thompson, Marcus's grandfather. Earl was 65 and had lived in town his whole life. Michael reached into his pocket and touched something there. Dorothy Mae noticed he kept doing that, touching whatever was in his pocket like it was important. "My father passed away in 1993. Michael said quietly. Before he died, he told me about this place. He said someday I should come here and see where our family's roots were planted. Reverend Samuel Washington walked up slowly. At 71, he was one of the oldest people in town. He had baptized most of the children and buried most of their grandparents. Your grandfather was a good man, Reverend Washington said. James Sr. helped anybody who needed it. When families didn't have food, he shared what little he had. When the big flood came in 1954, he worked day and night helping folks rebuild. Michael's eyes got soft. That sounds like the stories my father told me. Your daddy was just a boy then, Dorothy May added. But he was always helping his father. James Jr. had good hands. Even as a child, could fix anything. He carried those skills with him, Michael said. My father could build or repair anything around our house. More people gathered around. Sarah Martinez, the young teacher, brought her 2 children. Robert Chen, who ran the town's only gas station, closed his shop to come see what was happening. Ruby Henderson locked up her small diner and hurried over. 10-year-old Keisha Williams pushed through the crowd. She wore a torn Chicago Bulls shirt with Jordan's number 23 on it. The shirt was too big for her small frame. Mr. Jordan, she said shyly, my mama says you're the best basketball player ever. Michael knelt down to Keisha's level. What's your name, sweetheart? Keisha Williams. I live with my grandma over on Oak Street. Do you like basketball, Keisha? The girl's face lit up. Yes, sir. But we don't got nowhere good to play. The old court behind the school got torn down last year. Now we just shoot at a rusty hoop in my backyard. Michael looked around at all the faces watching him. Young and old, they all had the same look, hope mixed with sadness. Hope that something good might happen, but sadness from years of disappointment. Tell me about this town, Michael said to the group. Tell me what it was like when my grandfather lived here. Tell me what it's like now. Earl Thompson spoke first. Back in the 1940s and 50s, this place was alive. The cotton mill ran 3 shifts. Families had good jobs. Children played in the streets because it was safe. We had 2 grocery stores, a movie theater, even a soda fountain. Now? Asked Sarah Martinez sadly. Most of our young people move away after high school. There's no work here. Our school is falling apart. The playground equipment is broken. Kids share old textbooks because we can't afford new ones. Michael touched his pocket again. Whatever was in there seemed heavy. My father told me that the people of Tichy taught him that a community is only as strong as how it takes care of each other. Michael said. Your daddy remembered that lesson well, Reverend Washington replied. Even after your family moved away, James Jr. would send Christmas cards. He always asked about folks here, said he hoped to come back someday and help this town. Michael's phone buzzed in his back pocket. He pulled it out and looked at the screen, then turned it off without answering. Mr. Jordan, asked Keisha, why did you really come here? Are you going to help us like your daddy wanted to? Michael looked at the little girl in the Bulls shirt. Then he looked at Dorothy May, who had known his grandfather. He looked at all the faces around him, people who had stayed in this struggling town because it was home. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a sealed envelope. It was old and yellowed around the edges. Everyone stared at it. My father left me this before he died, Michael said quietly. He made me promise not to open it until I came here. He said when I saw this place with my own eyes, I would know what to do. The crowd was completely silent. Even the children stopped fidgeting. What's in it? Dorothy May asked softly. Michael held the envelope carefully, like it might break. I don't know, but I think it's time to find out. His phone buzzed again. This time he didn't even look at it. Whatever business was calling could wait. This moment, this place, these people, this was where he needed to be. Tomorrow, he said, looking around at all the hopeful faces. Tomorrow, I'll open it. And tomorrow everything might change. As the sun began to set over Tichy, Michael Jordan stood surrounded by the descendants of people who had helped shape his family's story. The mysterious envelope felt warm in his hands, heavy with possibility and promise. Little did anyone know that by tomorrow evening, every single person in this small town would be crying tears of joy. The next morning came early for Michael Jordan. He woke up in the small motel room in Wallace, 20 minutes from Tichy. The bed was uncomfortable and the air conditioner was loud. But Michael hadn't slept well anyway. His mind kept thinking about the envelope and the promise he made. By 8 o'clock he was back in Tichy. The black car pulled up to Dorothy May's house again. She was already sitting on her front porch, waiting for him. "Good morning, Mrs. Jenkins," Michael said as he got out of the car. "I hope you don't mind me coming back so early." "Child, I've been up since 5. Dorothy May replied with a smile. "I couldn't sleep thinking about that envelope." Half the town probably didn't sleep either. Michael laughed. It felt good to laugh. "Would you mind walking with me? I want to see the places my father told me about. These old legs will do their best," Dorothy May said, standing up slowly. They walked down Main Street together. Other people came out of their houses to join them. Soon, a small group was following Michael as he stopped at each old building. "That used to be Miller's General Store." Dorothy May pointed to a building with broken windows. "Your grandfather bought seed for his garden there every spring." Michael stared at the empty building. He could almost picture his grandfather as a young man walking through those doors. "And over there was the movie theater," added Earl Thompson, who had joined the group. "Your daddy loved cowboy movies. He'd save his pennies all week to go on Saturday afternoons." They walked to the end of Main Street. Michael stopped at an empty lot full of tall weeds and broken bottles. A rusty fence surrounded the area. "What was here?" Michael asked. "That was the cotton mill," Earl said sadly. "Biggest employer in 3 counties. Your grandfather worked there for 30 years. Michael walked closer to the fence. He could see old concrete foundations under the weeds. This was where his grandfather had worked every day, supporting his family and helping build this community. "The mill closed in 2015, explained Sarah Martinez, the teacher. "That's when things really got hard for Tichy. Most families depended on jobs there." "What did people do after it closed?" Michael asked. "Some folks found work in Wilmington, but that's an hour drive each way," said Robert Chen. "Gas is expensive when you don't make much money." Others moved away completely. Michael felt heavy sadness in his chest. This wasn't just about his family history. This was about people struggling to survive. They kept walking until they reached a different empty lot. This one was smaller, with a big oak tree in the middle. The tree was old and beautiful, with thick branches that gave cool shade. "This is where your grandfather's house stood," Dorothy May said softly. "He built it himself in 1935, right after he married your grandmother." Michael walked into the lot. Under the oak tree, he could see small piles of old bricks. Parts of an old foundation peeked through the grass. "He planted tomatoes right there where you're standing," Earl remembered. "Best tomatoes in the county. He'd give them away to anybody who needed food." Michael knelt down in the dirt. He picked up a handful of soil and let it fall through his fingers. This dirt had fed his grandfather's garden. This ground had supported his family's first home in America. "Tell me more about him," Michael said, still kneeling. James Sr. was quiet, but he was strong, Reverend Washington said. The old preacher had joined them at the empty lot. He worked hard but always had time to help his neighbors. When Mrs. Coleman's roof leaked, your grandfather fixed it for free. When the Henderson family's car broke down, he spent his Saturday helping them repair it. "What about my father? What was he like as a boy?" Dorothy May smiled. James Jr. was full of energy. Always running, always playing. He had good hands like his daddy. Could catch anything you threw at him. He was kind too, added Ruby Henderson, who had closed her diner to join the walk. "When I was little, I fell off my bicycle and scraped my knee real bad. James Jr. helped me walk home and told my mama what happened. He was only 8 years old, but he acted like a grown-up." Michael stood up and brushed the dirt off his hands. His phone was buzzing again, but he ignored it completely. Just then, Keisha Williams came running up the street. She was still wearing her Bulls jersey, and she was carrying something in her arms. "Mr. Jordan," she called out. "I brought something for you." Keisha ran up to the group, breathing hard from running. In her arms was an old basketball. The leather was cracked and faded. The lines were barely visible, but it was still round and still bounced. "This was my granddaddy's basketball," Keisha said proudly. "He got it when he was young. He told me it came from the old court, where kids used to play when your daddy was a boy." Michael took the old ball carefully. It felt light in his hands, worn smooth from years of use. "My granddaddy said kids would play basketball right over there." Keisha pointed to another empty lot across the street. There used to be 2 hoops in a court with painted lines. But they tore it down years ago to build a parking lot. Then they never built the parking lot either. Michael held the basketball and looked at the empty lot where children used to play. He thought about his own childhood, shooting baskets in his backyard in Wilmington. He thought about all the opportunities basketball had given him. "Mr. Jordan," said 8-year-old Marcus Thompson, Earl's grandson, "Keisha's the best basketball player in our class. But she's got nowhere good to practice." "That's not true," Keisha said, blushing. "I just love playing. My grandma put up a hoop in our backyard, but it's crooked and the rim don't have no net." Michael looked at Keisha's hopeful face. Then he looked around at all the adults watching him. These people had stayed in Tichy even when things got hard. They were raising children here, trying to keep their community alive. "Where do kids play now?" Michael asked. "Sometimes we go to the school playground," Marcus answered, "but that hoop is broken too. The backboard has a big crack in it. There's nowhere in this town for children to play basketball properly," Sarah Martinez said sadly. "We lost our recreation center when the mill closed. They sold the building to pay debts." Michael's phone buzzed again. This time he pulled it out and looked at the screen. It was his business manager calling from Chicago. Michael turned the phone off completely. "Mr. Jordan," Keisha asked quietly, "do you think our town will ever be good again? Do you think kids like me will have places to play and learn?" Michael looked at the little girl holding his grandfather's old basketball. He looked at the empty lots where families used to live and children used to play. He looked at the faces of people who had lost so much but still had hope. He reached into his pocket and touched the envelope again. It felt warm against his fingers. "Keisha," Michael said, his voice getting stronger. "I think your town is about to become more than good. I think it's about to become special." The adults looked at each other with questions in their eyes. What did Michael mean? What was he planning? "Tomorrow morning," Michael announced to the group, "I want everyone to meet at the community center. Bring your families. Bring your neighbors. I'm going to open this envelope. And I'm going to tell you what my father wanted me to do." Earl Thompson asked, "What time should we be there?" 10 o'clock, Michael said. "And please, spread the word. I want the whole town there. Every person in Tichy deserves to hear what I have to say." As the group started to break up, Michael handed the old basketball back to Keisha. "You keep this safe," he told her. "Something tells me this ball is going to be important very soon." Keisha hugged the basketball tight. "Yes, sir, Mr. Jordan. I'll take good care of it." Michael walked back toward his car, but he stopped and turned around one more time. "Mrs. Jenkins," he called to Dorothy May, "tomorrow morning, everything changes. I promise you that." As Michael drove away, the people of Tichy stood in the street talking excitedly. What was in that envelope? What did Michael Jordan have planned for their little town? None of them could sleep that night. They were all thinking the same thing. Tomorrow couldn't come fast enough. By 9:30 the next morning, cars and trucks filled every parking space around the old community center. People walked from blocks away, carrying folding chairs and babies. Nobody wanted to miss this moment. The community center was the only building in Tichy big enough for the whole town to fit inside, but it was old and tired. The roof had brown stains from water leaks. The windows were cracked. The wooden floor creaked with every step. Dorothy May arrived early with her neighbor, Mrs. Peterson. They sat in the front row waiting. Earl Thompson brought his whole family, including little Marcus. The boy kept asking, "When is Mr. Jordan coming? What's in the envelope?" Ruby Henderson had closed her diner again. She couldn't afford to lose business, but this was more important than money. She brought sweet tea and biscuits for everyone. "If we're going to hear good news, we should celebrate properly," she said. Reverend Washington stood near the door, greeting people as they came in. "Morning, Sarah. How are those children of yours?" "Morning, Robert. How's business at the gas station?" The room filled with nervous excitement. People whispered to each other, wondering what Michael Jordan would tell them. Some hoped for good news. Others worried it might be bad news. Everyone was curious. At exactly 10 o'clock, Michael walked through the front door. He wore the same simple clothes, jeans and a white shirt, but he looked different today. More serious, more determined. The room went completely quiet. Even the babies stopped crying. Michael walked to the front and turned to face everyone. He was holding the mysterious envelope. "Good morning," Michael said. His voice was strong and clear. "Thank you all for coming." "Morning," Michael called out several voices. "I want to start by telling you why I came to Tichy," Michael continued. "It wasn't just to see where my grandfather lived. It was to learn something about my family that I never understood before." He looked around the room at all the faces. Young mothers holding babies. Teenagers sitting with their grandparents. Children fidgeting in their seats. "Yesterday you told me stories about my grandfather and my father. You told me how they helped their neighbors. You told me how this community taught them important lessons about working hard and caring for each other." Michael's voice got softer. "But you also told me your own stories. Stories about jobs disappearing. Stories about young people moving away. Stories about schools that need repair and children who need better places to learn and play." Sarah Martinez raised her hand. "Michael, we don't want you to feel sorry for us. We're proud people. We work hard with what we have." "I know you are," Michael replied. "That's exactly why I'm here." He held up the envelope. Everyone leaned forward in their seats. "Before my father died in 1993, he called me to his hospital bed. He was very sick, but his mind was clear. He handed me this envelope and made me promise 3 things. The room was so quiet you could hear the old building settling on its foundation. First, he made me promise not to open this envelope until I came to Tichy and met the people here. Second, he made me promise to listen to your stories and understand your needs. Third, he made me promise to remember that success means nothing if you forget the people who helped you." Michael's hands shook slightly as he held the envelope. "My father told me that the people of Tichy had given our family something precious. He said they taught us that a community takes care of its own. He said if I ever became successful, I had a duty to give back to places like this." Robert Chen, who owned the gas station, spoke up. "Your father was a good man, Michael, but you don't owe us anything. You earned everything you got through your own hard work." Michael shook his head. "Mr. Chen, nobody succeeds alone. My father learned his work ethic in this town. My grandfather learned how to be a good neighbor here. Those lessons helped raise me. They helped me become who I am." Keisha Williams sat in the 3rd row, clutching her grandfather's old basketball. She raised her small hand. "Yes, Keisha." "Mr. Jordan, what's in the envelope? Is it something that can help our town?" Michael smiled at the little girl. "I'm about to find out, Keisha. But first, I want to hear more of your stories. I want to understand exactly what this community needs." For the next hour, people shared their struggles and dreams. Robert Chen talked about how hard it was to keep his gas station running when so few people had money to spend. "I want to hire help, but I can't afford it. I work 7 days a week just to pay the bills." Sarah Martinez explained the problems at the school. "We have 32 students in grades K through 8T. That's all the children left in Tichy. Our building is 40 years old. The roof leaks when it rains. We have 1 computer for all the children to share." Ruby Henderson wiped tears from her eyes as she spoke. "I love my diner, but some days only 3 or 4 people come in. I can't afford to buy fresh food every day. I have to make do with what I have." Young Marcus Thompson raised his hand. "Mr. Jordan, my mama works in Wilmington now. She drives 2 hours every day just to get to work and come home. She's always tired." "What kind of work does she do, Marcus?" "She cleans offices at night. She leaves when I eat dinner and comes home after I go to sleep. I miss her." Michael's eyes filled with tears hearing these stories. These people were working so hard just to survive. An older man named Frank Williams stood up. He was Keisha's great-uncle. "Michael, we appreciate you listening to us. But what can one person do? Even someone as famous as you? Our problems are big." Michael looked at Frank, then at everyone else in the room. "Mr. Williams, you're right. One person can't solve everything. But one person can start something. One person can plant seeds that grow into something bigger." He walked closer to the crowd, still holding the envelope. "My father believed that communities like Tichy are the heart of America. He believed that when small towns succeed, everybody succeeds. He believed that children growing up in places like this learn values that make them strong adults." "But how do we make Tichy succeed again?" asked Dorothy May. "We're just a small town with big problems." Michael stopped walking. He looked directly at Dorothy May, the woman who had known his grandfather. Mrs. Jenkins, my father left me instructions in this envelope. He told me that when I came here and heard your stories, I would know what to do with what he left me. The room buzzed with excitement. What had his father left? What were the instructions? Michael's phone had been buzzing in his pocket all morning, but he continued to ignore it. Whatever calls he was missing could wait. This moment was too important. Are you ready to hear what my father wanted me to do? Michael asked. Yes, called out several voices. Are you ready to learn how we're going to change Tichy forever? Yes. The whole room shouted. Michael carefully opened the envelope. Inside was a folded piece of paper and something small wrapped in cloth. His hands shook as he unfolded the paper. He read silently for a moment. His eyes grew wide. A tear rolled down his cheek. What does it say? Keisha called out, unable to wait any longer. Michael looked up at the crowd. His voice was thick with emotion. It says, "Son, the people of Tichy gave our family roots. Now it's time to give them wings." The room was silent, waiting for more. Michael unwrapped the small cloth package. Inside was an old key, tarnished with age. This key, Michael said, holding it up so everyone could see, opens a safety deposit box in Wilmington. My father has been putting money in that box for 15 years. Money he saved specifically for this moment. People began whispering excitedly. How much money? What was it for? The letter explains everything. Michael continued. My father bought land here in Tichy, in 20 acres on the south side of town. He's been paying taxes on it through a lawyer all these years. Earl Thompson stood up. I remember when that land was sold. We wondered who bought it. The buyer used a company name, not a person's name. That was my father, Michael confirmed. He bought that land because he planned to come back here someday and build something for this community. He said if anything happened to him first, I should use the land and the money to keep his promise to Tichy. The excitement in the room was growing. Children were bouncing in their seats. Adults were crying happy tears. How much money, Michael? Reverend Washington asked gently. Michael looked at the letter again. When he looked up, he was smiling through his tears. $2 million. The room exploded with gasps, shouts, and crying. People hugged each other. Children cheered. Dorothy May fanned herself with her handkerchief, saying, Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy. But Michael wasn't finished. He pulled out his cell phone. There's more, he announced over the noise. That money is what my father left. But it's not all I'm going to do. The room quieted down again, everyone listening carefully. Michael dialed a number on his phone. It's time, he said to whoever answered. Bring everything we discussed. He hung up and smiled at the confused faces in the crowd. In about 10 minutes, you're going to see what happens when a community's dreams meet someone who believes in making them come true. Outside, they could hear the sound of trucks pulling up to the community center. Who did you call? Keisha asked, clutching her basketball tighter. Friends, Michael said with a big smile. Very good friends who want to help build something amazing in Tichy. The sound of truck doors slamming and voices outside made everyone even more excited. What was Michael Jordan planning? And who were these friends? Tomorrow, Michael announced, we start building the future of Tichy, North Carolina. The trucks outside got quiet. Car doors slammed shut. Footsteps walked toward the community center. Everyone inside held their breath, waiting to see who Michael had called. The front door opened. 3 people walked in and gasps filled the room. The first person was a tall woman in a business suit. She carried a briefcase and smiled warmly at everyone. Behind her came a man with gray hair wearing work clothes and boots. The third person was a younger woman with a medical bag. Everyone, Michael said, I want you to meet some friends of mine. The woman in the business suit stepped forward. Hello, I'm Patricia Williams. I'm an architect from Charlotte. Michael asked me to come look at your town and help plan some special buildings. The man with gray hair waved. I'm James Henderson, a contractor. I build schools and community centers. Michael told me about your dreams for this place. The younger woman smiled. I'm Dr. Maria Santos. I'm a family doctor. Michael asked me to come see what kind of medical care your community needs. The room buzzed with excitement and confusion. Why were these people here? What was Michael planning? Michael, Dorothy May asked. What's all this about? Michael walked to the center of the room. Mrs. Jenkins, my father's $2 million will help start rebuilding Teachy. But money alone doesn't change lives. People do. He gestured to his 3 friends. These people volunteered to come here and work with all of you to plan exactly what this community needs. Patricia Williams, the architect, opened her briefcase. I've spent my whole career designing buildings for small towns, schools, libraries, community centers. Michael told me about Teachy's challenges, and I want to help create solutions. Sarah Martinez, the teacher, raised her hand. What kind of solutions? Well, Patricia said, Michael told me your school building is old and too small. I'd like to work with parents and teachers to design a new school that gives children the best possible place to learn. The parents in the room looked at each other with hope in their eyes. A new school? Could it really happen? James Henderson, the contractor, spoke next. I've built over 50 schools in North Carolina. I know how to build them strong and beautiful, but also affordable. Michael asked me to figure out how to give you the most value for every dollar. Dr. Santos added, Michael told me this town doesn't have a doctor or clinic nearby. I want to spend time here understanding what medical services people need most. Maybe we can build a small clinic as part of the new development. Ruby Henderson raised her hand. Dr. Santos, some of us can't afford to pay for medical care. What would happen to people like us? Dr. Santos smiled kindly.
Ma'am, Michael and I have talked about that.
Part of the plan is to make sure everyone in Teachy can get basic medical care, regardless of their ability to pay. More gasps and whispers filled the room. Free medical care? A new school? This was almost too good to believe. Young Marcus Thompson raised his hand. Mr. Jordan, what about a place to play basketball? You said yesterday that everything would change. Michael knelt down to Marcus's level. Marcus, what if I told you we're planning to build not just one basketball court, but a whole recreation center? With basketball courts, a playground, and rooms where kids can do homework after school? Marcus's eyes grew huge. Really, a real recreation center? Really, Michael confirmed. And Keisha, remember what I said about your grandfather's basketball being important? Keisha nodded, holding the old ball tighter. That basketball will be the first ball we use on the new court. We'll put it in a special case so everyone remembers that dreams start with what we have, not what we wish we had. Tears started flowing throughout the room. People were crying happy tears, but also tears of relief. For so long, they had felt forgotten by the world. Now, someone cared about their community. Earl Thompson stood up slowly. Michael, this is wonderful. But I have to ask, why are you doing all this? You don't owe us anything. Michael was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft but strong. Mr. Thompson, my father taught me that success isn't about what you achieve. It's about how many people you lift up with you. He said the Jordan family name should mean something more than basketball trophies. It should mean keeping promises. Rev. Washington nodded. Your father was a wise man, son. But this is a big promise. Are you sure you can keep it? Michael looked around the room at all the hopeful faces. Children sitting next to their grandparents. Young parents holding babies. Teenagers who had never seen their town prosper. Reverend, I've thought about this for months. I've planned and saved money. I've brought in the best people I know to help. This isn't just a nice idea. It's a real plan with real commitment. Patricia Williams pulled out some papers from her briefcase. I've already done some preliminary planning based on what Michael told me about your needs. Would you like to see some initial ideas? Yes, several voices called out. Patricia spread drawings on a table at the front of the room. People crowded around to look. The first drawing showed a beautiful new school building with big windows and colorful playgrounds. The second drawing showed a recreation center with basketball courts, meeting rooms, and a kitchen. This is what we could build with your father's $2 million. Sarah Martinez asked Michael. Actually, Michael said with a smile, that's what we could build with much more than $2 million. Everyone looked confused. What did he mean? Michael pulled out his phone again. I told you my father left $2 million. That's true. But I didn't tell you what I'm adding to it. He dialed a number. Yes, it's Michael Jordan. Please transfer $5 million from my personal account to the Teachy Community Development Fund we set up yesterday. The room went completely silent. Did Michael just say $5 million? On top of the $2 million his father left? Did you just say $5 million? Dorothy May whispered. Yes, ma'am. $7 million total. My father started this project, but I'm gonna finish it properly. People started crying harder. Some were laughing and crying at the same time. Children were jumping up and down with excitement. But Michael wasn't finished with his surprises. There's more, he announced. James, would you bring in the other plans? James Henderson went outside and came back with a large rolled paper. He spread it on the floor where everyone could see. It was a map of Tichy with new buildings drawn in. A school, a recreation center, a mediclinic, new homes, and even new shops on Main Street. This is our 5-year plan for Tichy, Michael explained. We're not just building a few buildings. We're rebuilding an entire community. Frank Williams, Keisha's great-uncle, stared at the map. Michael, this would change everything. But how do we know it will really happen? How do we know you won't change your mind? Michael looked directly at Frank. Mr. Williams, I'm going to answer that by making one more promise. And this promise is the most important one of all. He walked to the center of the room so everyone could see him clearly. I promise you that I will personally oversee this project until it's complete. I promise you that I will come back to Tichy every month to check on progress. And I promise you that if this project succeeds, I'll help other small towns do the same thing. The excitement in the room was overwhelming. People were hugging, crying, and laughing all at once. When do we start? Robert Chen asked. Patricia Williams checked her calendar. If the community agrees to move forward, we can start detailed planning next week. Construction could begin in 3 months. How long will it take to build everything? Ruby Henderson wanted to know. James Henderson studied his notes. The school and clinic could be finished in 18 months. The recreation center might take 2 years. New housing and Main Street improvements could take 3 to 4 years total. Michael held up his hand for attention. I know this is a lot to take in. I know it seems almost too good to be true. But I want everyone to understand something important. The room got quiet again. This project only works if the whole community participates. We need everyone, young and old, families and individuals, to be part of planning and building Tichy's future. Keisha Williams raised her small hand. Mr. Jordan, what can kids like me do to help? Michael smiled at her. Keisha, kids like you are the most important part of this whole project. You're the reason we're building for the future. But you can help by studying hard, dreaming big, and believing that anything is possible. Can we really have our own basketball court? Marcus asked again. Marcus, you're going to have the best youth basketball facilities in Eastern North Carolina. And I'm going to make sure you have great coaches too. As the meeting started to wind down, people couldn't stop talking excitedly about the plans. But Michael had one final surprise. Before everyone goes home, he said, there's one more thing I need to tell you. Something that will make this project even more special. Everyone turned to listen. Tomorrow morning, a news crew from Charlotte is coming to Tichy. They want to film a story about what we're planning here. This story will be seen all across North Carolina and beyond. Why is that important? Earl Thompson asked. Michael grinned. Because when people see what we're building in Tichy, other communities are going to want to do the same thing, and other successful people are going to want to help small towns too. You mean this could happen in other places? Sarah Martinez asked. I mean, this could be the beginning of something much bigger than just Tichy. Michael replied. This could be the start of a movement to help small communities all across America. As people started to leave the community center, they were buzzing with excitement and possibility. Children ran outside to play, pretending they were already shooting baskets in their new recreation center. Michael stood with his 3 professional friends watching the happy families walk home. Are you sure about all this? Patricia Williams asked quietly. $7 million is a serious commitment. Michael nodded firmly. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. My father believed in this place. These people deserve a chance to succeed. Dr. Santos added, the medical needs alone will be challenging to address. That's why I brought the best people I know, Michael replied. We're going to do this right. As the sun set over Tichy, Michael Jordan sat on the steps of the old community center. Tomorrow, the real work would begin. Tomorrow, they would start building something that would change lives forever. But tonight, for the first time in years, the people of Tichy went to sleep with hope in their hearts and dreams of a better future dancing in their heads. The next morning arrived bright and early. By 7 o'clock, news trucks with tall antennas were driving through Ticci's quiet streets. Reporters and camera crews set up their equipment on Main Street, getting ready to tell the world about Michael Jordan's amazing plan. Michael woke up early too. He had stayed overnight at Dorothy May's house. She insisted he shouldn't drive back and forth to Wallace every day. "You're family now," she had told him. "Family stays close to home." At breakfast, Dorothy May made scrambled eggs and biscuits while Michael drank coffee from an old mug that said "World's Best Grandpa." It had belonged to her late husband. "You nervous about the news, people?" Dorothy May asked, setting a plate in front of Michael. "A little," Michael admitted. "I want to make sure they tell the story right. I want people to understand this isn't just about me giving money. It's about a community that never gave up. You'll do fine, child. Your heart's in the right place." By 9 o'clock, people from all over the area started arriving in Ticci. Word had spread quickly about the news coverage. People from nearby towns came to see what was happening. Some were curious. Others were hopeful that maybe their towns could get help too. The reporter was a woman named Jessica Chen from Channel 9 News in Charlotte. She was young and friendly, with a warm smile that made people feel comfortable talking to her. "Mr. Jordan," Jessica said, as her cameraman set up equipment, "this is an incredible story. What made you decide to invest so much in a town most people have never heard of?" Michael stood in front of the empty lot where his grandfather's house used to be. The old oak tree provided shade from the morning sun. "Jessica, this town gave my family something money can't buy. Values. My grandfather learned the meaning of hard work here. My father learned how to be a good neighbor. Those lessons shaped who I became." The camera rolled as Michael continued. "When I came here and saw how people were struggling, I realized I had a choice. I could remember where I came from and help, or I could forget my roots and walk away. For me, there was only one choice." Jessica nodded. "But $7 million is a huge commitment. Some people might wonder if this money could help more people if it was spread around to different causes." Michael thought carefully before answering. "That's a fair question. But I believe that when you really change one community, when you give people hope and opportunity, that change spreads to other places. Ticci can become an example for other small towns." The camera crew filmed different parts of town, while Jessica interviewed local residents. She talked to Sarah Martinez about the school's needs. She spoke with Ruby Henderson about struggling to keep her diner open. She asked Robert Chen about young people leaving town to find work. But the most powerful interview was with little Keisha Williams. Jessica knelt down to Keisha's level while the camera recorded their conversation. "Keisha, how does it feel to know you'll have a new school and a place to play basketball?" Keisha clutched her grandfather's old basketball and thought for a moment. "It feels like Christmas Morrison, but bigger. It feels like all my dreams are going to come true at the same time." "What's your biggest dream?" "I want to go to college someday and become a teacher. Then I want to come back to Ticci and help other kids learn. Just like Mr. Jordan is helping us now." Jessica's eyes filled with tears. Even the tough cameraman had to wipe his eyes. After the interviews, Michael gathered everyone at the community center again. This time, even more people came. Cars had license plates from 3 different counties. Word was spreading fast. "Friends," Michael began, "yesterday I told you about buildings we're going to construct. Today, I want to tell you about something even more important that we're going to build." The crowd leaned forward, listening carefully. Michael pulled out another envelope from his jacket pocket. This one was newer and sealed with wax. "This morning I finalized something I've been planning for months. Something that will change the life of every child in this community forever." Dorothy May's eyes widened. "Michael, what else have you done?" Michael broke the wax seal and opened the envelope. Inside were official-looking papers with legal seals and signatures. "I've established the James Jordan Senior and Junior Educational Foundation," Michael announced. "This foundation will provide full college scholarships to every child who graduates from Ticci High School." The silence that followed was deafening. Parents grabbed their children closer. Teenagers stared at Michael in shock. "Every child?" Sarah Martinez whispered. "You mean every single child?" "Every single child," Michael confirmed. "No matter their family's income, no matter their grades, no matter what college they choose. If you live in Ticci and graduate from high school, your college education is completely paid for." The room erupted. People were crying, shouting, and hugging each other. Some parents fell to their knees, overcome with emotion. Children were jumping up and down, even though many were too young to fully understand what college meant. Marcus Thompson raised his hand, tears streaming down his face. "Mr. Jordan, does that mean I can really go to college? Even if my family can't pay?" "Yes, Marcus. If you work hard in school and graduate, you can go to any college in America. You can become anything you want to be." 8-year-old Destiny Washington, Revan Washington's great-granddaughter who had just moved to town, stood up. "Mr. Jordan, I want to be a doctor like Dr. Santos. Can I really do that?" "Yes, Destiny. You can become a doctor, a teacher, an engineer, or anything else you dream of. Education will give you choices." Jessica Chen's camera crew was recording everything. The reporter realized she was witnessing something historic. "Michael," Jessica asked, "how much will this education foundation cost over time?" Michael smiled. "I've set aside $15 million as the foundation's starting fund, based on current enrollment and projected growth. This should provide college education for Teachee's children for the next 50 years. More gasps filled the room. $15 million? On top of the $7 million for buildings? Michael Jordan was investing $22 million in their tiny town. But Michael wasn't finished. "There's something else," he said, pulling out one final document. "This foundation will also provide tutoring programs, summer camps, and after-school activities. We're going to make sure every child in Teachee has every possible chance to succeed." Earl Thompson stood up slowly, using his cane for support. His voice shook with emotion. "Michael, in all my 65 years, I've never seen anything like this. You've given our children a future we could never have provided ourselves. Mr. Thompson, that's exactly what my father hoped would happen. Before he died, he told me something I'll never forget. He said, 'Son, success isn't about reaching the top. It's about bringing as many people with you as you can.'" Rev Washington raised his hand. "Michael, how do we thank you? How does a community ever repay a gift like this?" Michael looked around the room at all the faces, some young, some old, all filled with hope and gratitude. "Reverend, you repay it by taking care of each other. You repay it by making sure every child knows they matter. You repay it by keeping this community strong and loving." Ruby Henderson wiped tears from her cheeks. "Michael, what if some of these children grow up and move away? What if they don't come back to help Teachee?" "Mrs. Henderson, that's okay. The goal isn't to keep everyone here forever. The goal is to give them choices. Some will leave and make the world better in other places. Some will come back and help Teachee grow. Both are good outcomes." Maria Santos, the 18-year-old who had graduated that spring, stood up. "Mr. Jordan, I was the first person you told about college scholarships yesterday. I stayed up all night thinking about it. I want to study education at UNC and come back here to teach in the new school." "That's wonderful, Maria. But remember, you can change your mind. You can study anything that interests you. That's what having choices means." As the meeting continued, people shared their dreams and asked questions. Parents talked about children who had given up on school because college seemed impossible. Now those same children were making plans and setting goals. Dr. Santos raised her hand. "Michael, I've been thinking about the medical clinic we discussed. With this education foundation, we should also focus on keeping families healthy, so children can succeed in school."
That's exactly right, Dr. Santos.
"Healthy children learn better. Strong communities support education. Everything connects." Patricia Williams, the architect, added, "Michael, I've been sketching ideas for the new school. Knowing that every graduate will go to college changes how we should design the building. We need more science labs, computer rooms, and college counseling spaces." "Perfect," Michael agreed. "Let's build a school that prepares students for university from day one." As the meeting wound down, Jessica Chen asked Michael one final question for her news report. "Michael, looking at all these happy faces, how does it feel to know you've changed so many lives in just 3 days?" Michael was quiet for a moment, looking around the room. His eyes stopped on Keisha, still holding her grandfather's old basketball. He looked at Marcus, already talking about what he wanted to study in college. He saw Dorothy May, crying happy tears at age. "Jessica, I think my father is smiling somewhere, knowing that his promise is finally being kept. This town gave the Jordan family roots. Now we're giving them wings. The camera stopped rolling, but the celebration continued. Children ran outside to play, already imagining their new school and recreation center. Parents stood in small groups, talking about their children's futures. As the sun set on Teachi's most amazing day ever, Michael sat on Dorothy May's front porch. The old woman brought him sweet tea and sat beside him. "Your grandfather would be so proud," she said softly. "I hope so, Mrs. Jenkins. I hope I'm doing what he and my father would have wanted." "Child, you've given this town something more precious than money. You've given us hope. You've given our children a future. That's the greatest gift anyone can give." Michael nodded, watching children play in the street. Tomorrow, the real work would begin. Construction plans, education programs, medical services, all of it would require careful planning and hard work. But tonight, every child in Teachie was going to sleep knowing they could go to college. Every parent was going to sleep knowing their children had unlimited possibilities. And Michael Jordan was going to sleep knowing he had kept his father's most important promise, to never forget where they came from, and always help others reach higher than they thought possible. The mysterious envelope had contained more than money or land deeds. It had contained a father's final gift to his son, the chance to change lives and create hope where there had been only struggle. As the stars came out over small-town North Carolina, the future looked brighter than it had in decades. 3 weeks later, Teachie looked like a completely different place. Construction trucks lined the streets every morning. Workers in hard hats walked around with blueprints and measuring tools. The sound of hammers and saws filled the air from sunrise to sunset. But the biggest change wasn't the construction. It was the people. Michael had kept his promise to return every week. Each time his black car pulled up, children ran to greet him. Adults waved from their porches. Even the teenagers, who used to ignore everything, got excited when Mr. Jordan came to town. On this particular Thursday morning, Michael brought special guest with him. When he got out of his car at the construction site, 3 more people stepped out behind him. The small crowd that had gathered gasped in recognition. "Everyone," Michael announced with a big smile. "I want you to meet some friends who wanted to see what we're building here." The first person was tall and familiar to anyone who watched basketball. "This is Scottie Pippen, who won 6 championships with me in Chicago." Scottie waved to the amazed crowd. "Michael told me about Teachie, and I had to come see this for myself. What you all are building here is incredible. This is Magic Johnson." Michael continued, gesturing to the legendary Lakers player. "He's been helping communities in Los Angeles for years, and he wants to help here too." Magic stepped forward with his famous smile. "I've seen a lot of community projects in my time, but nothing like what Michael is doing in Teachie. This is special." The third person was a woman many recognized from television. "And this is Robin Roberts from Good Morning America. She's here to film a story about our progress." Robin Roberts smiled warmly at everyone. "I've been following this story since the news broke 3 weeks ago. The whole country is talking about what's happening in Teachie." Keisha Williams pushed through the crowd, still carrying her grandfather's basketball everywhere she went. "Mr. Pippen, are you really going to help with our basketball program?" Scottie knelt down to Keisha's level. "That's right, young lady. Michael and I are going to make sure you have the best youth basketball program in North Carolina. Are you ready to work hard and learn?" "Yes, sir," Keisha said, her eyes shining with excitement. Magic Johnson looked around at the construction site where the new recreation center was taking shape. "Michael, this is impressive, but I have an idea that might make it even better." "What's that?" Michael asked. "In Los Angeles, I've learned that recreation centers work best when they serve the whole family, not just kids. What if we added a small business center here? A place where adults can take computer classes, learn new job skills, or even start their own businesses." Patricia Williams, the architect, immediately got excited. "Magic, that's brilliant. We have space in the current design. We could add classrooms and office space for adult education and small business development." Michael nodded enthusiastically. "I love it. What good is a basketball court if parents can't find good jobs to support their families?" Dr. Santos, who had been working in the temporary medical clinic, joined the conversation. If we're talking about serving whole families, I've been thinking about something too. Many parents here work long hours or travel far for jobs. What if the recreation center included after-school care, a safe place where children can do homework, get help with studies, and play until their parents get home from work? Sarah Martinez, who had been working with Patricia on school designs, clapped her hands together. Dr. Santos, that's exactly what this community needs. Some of our children go home to empty houses because their parents are working. A quality after-school program would help families and help children succeed in school. Robin Roberts filmed all of this discussion, capturing the excitement as the project grew bigger and better with each new ED. Mr. Jordan, Robin asked, when you first came to Tichy, did you imagine the project would expand like this? Michael looked around at all the faces, local residents, construction workers, his famous friends and community leaders all working together. Robin, I hoped it would grow, but this is beyond what I imagined. When good people come together around a worthy cause, amazing things happen. James Henderson, the contractor, spread out new blueprints on a table. With these additions, the business center, extended after-school care, and expanded family services, we're looking at a true community campus. The school, medical clinic, recreation center, and business center will all connect to create a hub for the entire town. Earl Thompson, who is now 66 and serving on the project planning committee, studied the blueprints. James, this looks wonderful, but won't all these additions cost a lot more money? Magic Johnson grinned. Earl, that's why I'm here. After seeing what Michael started, I want to contribute too. I'm donating $1 million to help build the business center and adult education programs. The crowd erupted in cheers and applause. Another $1 million. And from Magic Johnson himself. But the surprises weren't finished. Scottie Pippen raised his hand for attention. I'm not as rich as Magic and Michael, but I want to help too. I'm donating $500,000 specifically for youth sports programs, not just basketball, but soccer, baseball, and other activities for kids. More cheers filled the construction site. Michael looked amazed and touched by his friend's generosity. There's more, Robin Roberts announced. After my first story about Tichy aired on Good Morning America, our viewers started calling and emailing. People from all over the country want to help. She pulled out a folder full of letters and printouts. We've received over $200,000 in donations from regular people who were inspired by your story. A retired teacher in Ohio sent $5,000 for school supplies. A construction worker in Texas sent $500 for playground equipment. Hundreds of people sent smaller amounts, all wanting to be part of what's happening here. Dorothy May, now 79 and still sharp as ever, wiped tears from her eyes. Lord have mercy. People we've never met are helping our little town. Mrs. Jenkins, Robin said gently, your story touched hearts all across America. When people heard how this community never gave up, and how Michael honored his family's roots by coming back to help, they wanted to be part of something beautiful. Michael was quiet for a moment, overwhelmed by the outpouring of support. This is more than I ever dreamed possible. But it shows something important. When you plant seeds of hope, they grow in ways you never expect. 12-year-old Marcus Thompson, Earl's grandson, raised his hand. Mr. Jordan, with all these new programs, will there really be room for everything? Patricia Williams smiled at Marcus. Actually, Marcus, we've been able to redesign everything to fit perfectly. The school will have 20 classrooms, a library, a cafeteria, and science labs. The recreation center will have 2 basketball courts, meeting rooms, and the after-school program space. The medical clinic will serve 4 counties, and the business center will help adults learn new skills and start companies. How long will it take to build all of this? Asked Ruby Henderson, whose diner was now busier than ever with all the construction workers eating lunch there. James Henderson checked his timeline. With the additional funding and expanded plans, we're looking at about 3 years for complete construction. But we'll open sections as they're finished. The school should be ready for next fall. The medical clinic will open in 6 months. The recreation center will be ready in 18 months. Dr. Santos added, the temporary medical clinic has already treated over 400 people in 3 weeks. Once the permanent facility opens, we'll be able to serve thousands of people from surrounding areas. Magic Johnson looked around at the excited crowd. You know what impresses me most about this project? It's not just about building things. It's about building dreams. Every child here now believes they can go to college. Every parent believes their family can have a better life. That's exactly right, Michael agreed. The buildings are important, but they're just tools. The real construction happening here is in people's hearts and minds. Robin Roberts asked one more question for her story. Michael, some critics say you could have helped more people by spreading this money around to different causes. What do you say to that? Michael thought carefully before answering. Robin, I believe that when you truly transform one community, when you give people real hope and real opportunities, the transformation spreads to other places. Tichy is becoming a model that other towns can follow. Scottie Pippen nodded. Michael's right. I've already been contacted by communities in Illinois and Calamity asking how they can do something similar. And that's the bigger picture, Magic added. This isn't just about saving one small town. This is about showing America that small communities matter, that they're worth investing in, and that they can thrive again with the right support. As the day continued, the visitors toured every part of the construction site. They met with local families, two children about their dreams, and saw firsthand how the project was already changing lives. Late in the afternoon, as Robin Roberts finished filming her story, Michael gathered everyone together for one final announcement. Friends, what started as a promise to honor my father's memory has become something much bigger. It's become a movement. And I want to make one more commitment to ensure this movement continues. He pulled out a legal document from his briefcase. I'm establishing the Small Town Renaissance Foundation. This foundation will help other communities across America launch similar projects. Tichy won't be the only town to experience this kind of transformation. The crowd cheered, but Michael wasn't finished. Magic, Scotty and I are committing $50 million to this foundation. We're going to help small towns from coast to coast rediscover their potential and rebuild their futures. The cheering grew louder. $50 million to help towns everywhere. Every success story in Tichy will teach us how to help the next community. Every lesson we learn here will benefit towns across the nation. As the sun began to set over the construction site, Michael looked around at everything they had accomplished in just 3 weeks. Foundation work was nearly complete. Walls were starting to go up. Most importantly, the community was alive with hope and energy. Mrs. Jenkins. Michael said to Dorothy May, "Do you think my grandfather and father would be proud of what we're building?" Dorothy May smiled through happy tears. "Child, they're not just proud, they're dancing in heaven, knowing their family's legacy is changing the world." As his famous friends prepared to leave, promising to return often, Michael realized that his father's mysterious envelope had contained more than instructions and money. It had contained the seed of a movement that would spread far beyond the borders of tiny Tichy, North Carolina. Tomorrow would bring more construction, more planning, and more dreams coming true. But tonight, the people of Tichy went to sleep knowing they were part of something historic. A small town that dared to dream big and inspired a nation to believe in the power of community. 6 months had passed since Michael Jordan first drove his black car down the dusty streets of Tichy. Now on a crisp October morning, those same streets buzzed with activity that no one could have imagined. The temporary medical clinic had become so busy that Dr. Santos had hired 2 more doctors and 3 nurses. People drove from 4 different counties to get medical care they could afford. The waiting room was always full, but it was also full of hope. The new elementary school was almost finished. Workers were installing the last windows while teachers like Sarah Martinez planned lessons for the bright modern classrooms. The building looked like something from a big city, not a small rural town. But the most exciting progress was on the recreation center. The main building was complete, and workers were putting the finishing touches on the basketball courts. The floors gleamed under new lights. The hoops were perfectly straight, with bright white nets that had never been used. Michael arrived in Tichy that morning with his biggest surprise yet. Instead of his usual black car, he came in a large bus. When the bus door opened, out stepped not just Michael but 15 other people. The crowd that had gathered to greet him gasped as they recognized some of the faces. There was Dennis Rodman, who had played with Michael in Chicago. There was Charles Barkley, one of Michael's biggest rivals who had become a close friend. There were coaches, other former NBA players, and people in business suits. Everyone, Michael announced to the excited crowd, These are friends who wanted to see what we've built together, but more importantly, they're here to help us take the next big step. Keisha Williams, now 11 and taller, pushed through the crowd. She still carried a basketball everywhere, but now it was a new one that Michael had given her to practice with. She kept her grandfather's old ball safe at home. "Mr. Jordan," Keisha asked, "what's the next big step?" Michael smiled at the girl who had become like a daughter to him over the past 6 months. "Keisha, today I want to tell everyone about the part of this project that will change lives the most." The crowd moved into the completed section of the recreation center. It was beautiful inside, with high ceilings, perfect lighting, and floors so shiny you could see your reflection. But what amazed people most was how big it felt, like a real arena. Michael stood at center court while everyone gathered around. 6 months ago, I promised this community that we would build something special. We've built schools, clinics, and this recreation center. But today, I want to tell you about the gift that will last forever. He pulled out a folder filled with official documents. "I've been working with lawyers and education experts to create something that has never been done before in a small town like this." Dorothy May, now 79 and using a walker but still sharp as ever, sat in the front row. "Michael, what have you done now?" "Mrs. Jenkins, I've created something called the Teachee Excellence Academy. Starting next year, this won't just be a recreation center, it will be a place where children get the best education possible." Sarah Martinez raised her hand. "Michael, we already have a new school building." "What do you mean?" "Sarah, the new school will handle regular classes beautifully. But the Excellence Academy will provide additional programs that most small towns could never afford. Advanced science classes, computer programming, art and music programs, college preparation courses, all taught by the best teachers in the state." Charles Barkley stepped forward. "Folks, I've seen a lot of community programs. But what Michael has planned here is like nothing I've ever seen. He's bringing big city educational opportunities to small town children." One of the people in business suits was introduced as Dr. Jennifer Martinez, the former principal of a top school in Charlotte. "I've agreed to move to Teachee and run the Excellence Academy," she announced. "We'll have small class sizes, individual attention for every student, and programs designed to prepare children for any college in America." The crowd was excited but also confused. How much would this cost? Could families afford it? Michael seemed to read their minds. "The Excellence Academy will be completely free for every child in Teachee. No tuition, no fees, no costs at all. Every child will have access to the same quality education that rich families pay thousands of dollars for in private schools." Parents looked at each other in amazement. Free advanced education for their children? It seemed too good to be true. "But there's more," Michael continued. "The Academy will also provide programs for teenagers who want to learn trades, carpentry, plumbing, electrical work, automotive repair. Not every child wants to go to college, and that's perfectly fine. We want to prepare them for whatever path they choose." Dennis Rodman, who had grown up poor himself, nodded approvingly. "Kids need options. Some will be doctors and lawyers. Others will be skilled craftsmen who keep communities running. Both paths are valuable." With Ed Washington, now 72 and still the town's spiritual leader, raised his hand. "Michael, this sounds wonderful. But how do we know it will really work?" One of the other visitors stepped forward. She was a young woman, maybe 25, wearing a business suit and carrying herself with confidence. "Reverend, my name is Angela Thompson. I grew up in a small town in Georgia that had a similar program. I'm now a lawyer in Atlanta, but I wanted to come here to tell you what this kind of education can do." Angela's voice was strong and clear. "When I was Keisha's age, my town was struggling just like Teachee was. Then someone invested in an excellence program like this one. I learned advanced math and science. I took college courses while still in high school. When I graduated, I was ready for any university in America." "Where did you go to college?" asked Maria Santos, the young woman who had been one of Michael's first scholarship recipients. "I went to Harvard Law School," Angela replied, a girl from a town smaller than Teachee going to Harvard. That's what excellent education can do. The crowd was quiet, absorbing the magnitude of what Michael was offering their children. Marcus Thompson, Earl's grandson, was now 9 and had been following every development in the project. "Mr. Jordan, will there be basketball coaching too?" "Marcus, I'm glad you asked. Michael gestured to several of the visitors who hadn't spoken yet. These are some of the best youth basketball coaches in America. They've agreed to move to Tichy and run basketball programs year-round. Scottie Pippen, who had returned as promised, added, "Marcus, we're not just talking about playing games. We're talking about using basketball to teach life lessons, teamwork, discipline, never giving up. The basketball program will be connected to the academic program." "What do you mean?" Keisha asked. "I mean," Scottie explained, "that if you want to play basketball, you have to maintain good grades. If you want to be on the travel team, you have to participate in community service. Sports and education work together to build character." Dr. Jennifer Martinez pulled out architectural plans. "The Excellence Academy will use the entire recreation center complex. We'll have science labs, computer rooms, art studios, and music practice rooms. Children will move between the main school building and the academy building throughout the day." "How many children can participate?" asked Ruby Henderson, whose diner was now thriving with all the new activity in town. "Every child in Tichy, from kindergarten through high school." Dr. Martinez replied, "But we'll also accept students from surrounding communities. The academy will serve this entire region." Magic Johnson, who had returned for this special announcement, spoke up. "Folks, I want you to understand something important. What Michael is creating here isn't just good, it's revolutionary. Most small towns lose their best and brightest young people because there aren't opportunities. This program will create opportunities that rival anything in big cities. But will our children want to stay in Tichy after getting such a good education?" asked Frank Williams, Keisha's great-uncle. Michael considered the question carefully. "Mr. Williams, some will stay and help Tichy continue to grow. Others will leave and make the world better in other places. Both outcomes are good. The goal isn't to trap children here, it's to give them choices." Earl Thompson stood up slowly, using his cane. "Michael, I'm almost 66 years old. I've seen a lot of promises made and broken. But what you've done in 6 months has already changed this town forever. If you say this academy will work, I believe you." "Mr. Thompson, I don't just say it will work, I guarantee it. I'm putting another $10 million into creating an endowment fund that will keep this academy running for generations." The crowd gasped. "Another $10 million? How much was Michael investing in their small town?" "With this endowment," Michael continued, "the Excellence Academy will operate forever, regardless of economic changes or other challenges. Your children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren will have access to world-class education right here in Tichy." Dr. Santos, who had been working tirelessly in the medical clinic, asked, "Michael, what about healthcare? Education is wonderful, but healthy children learn better." Dr. Santos, "I'm glad you brought that up." Michael gestured to another visitor, a woman in medical scrubs. "This is Dr. Patricia Kim, a pediatric specialist from Duke University. She's agreed to join our medical team and focus specifically on children's health and nutrition programs." Dr. Kim stepped forward. "We'll provide comprehensive health care for every child in the academy. Regular checkups, dental care, vision screening, and nutrition education. Healthy children are successful students." As the presentation continued, people began to realize the full scope of what Michael had created. This wasn't just about helping one small town. It was about creating a model that could transform small communities across America. "When does the academy start?" Sarah Martinez asked. "Next September," Dr. Martinez replied. "We'll spend the school year planning, hiring teachers, and preparing programs. Current students will finish this year in the regular school, then transition to the combined regular school and Excellence Academy programs next fall." "What if some families don't want their children in the academy?" asked Robert Chen. "That's their choice," Michael replied. "The regular school programs will continue to be excellent. The academy programs are additional opportunities, not requirements." As the meeting ended, people were buzzing with excitement and possibility. Children talked about learning computer programming. Teenagers discussed college preparation courses. Parents imagined their children having opportunities they had never dreamed possible. Michael stood with his visitors, watching the happy families leave the recreation center. "You know what this means, don't you?" Charles Barkley asked quietly. "What?" Michael replied. "It means you've just guaranteed that Tichy, North Carolina will produce some of the best educated, most successful young people in America. Kids from this little town are going to change the world." Michael nodded, thinking about his father's mysterious envelope and the promise it had contained. Charles, I think that's exactly what my father hoped would happen. As the sun set over Tichy, the town looked different than it had just 6 months before. Construction cranes dotted the skyline. New buildings rose from what had been empty lots. Cars with license plates from many states drove down Main Street as people came to see the famous transformation. But the biggest change wasn't in the buildings. It was in the dreams of the children who now believed they could accomplish anything. And in the hearts of parents who knew their children would have every opportunity to succeed. Tomorrow, detailed planning would begin for the most ambitious educational program ever attempted in a small American town. But tonight, every child in Tichy went to sleep, knowing they would receive an education that could take them anywhere in the world, while never forgetting the small town that gave them wings to fly. 2 years had passed since Michael Jordan first opened his father's mysterious envelope in the old community center. Now, on a beautiful spring morning in May, Tichy looked like a completely different place. Where empty lots and broken buildings once stood, a modern campus stretched across the heart of town. The new Levanorian Middle School gleamed in the morning sun. The Tichy Excellence Academy building connected to the recreation center through covered walkways. The medical clinic had expanded twice to serve the growing number of families moving to the area. But today was special. Today was the grand opening ceremony for the complete Tichy community campus. And people were coming from across the nation to see what had been accomplished. Michael arrived early, as he always did. But this time, he wasn't alone in his black car. Sitting beside him was a 12-year-old girl with a confident smile and a basketball in her lap. "Are you nervous, Keisha?" Michael asked as they pulled up to the recreation center. Keisha Williams, now almost as tall as her grandmother and captain of the middle school basketball team, shook her head. "No, sir. I'm excited. Today feels like the best day of my life." "Why's that?" "Because today I get to show the whole world what you helped us build. And because," she paused, clutching something in her pocket. "Because I have a surprise for you too." Michael raised his eyebrows. "A surprise for me? What could you possibly surprise me with?" Keisha grinned. "You'll have to wait and see, Mr. Jordan." As they walked toward the building, Michael marveled at how much had changed. Main Street was busy with new shops and restaurants. Young families pushed strollers down sidewalks that had been repaired and lined with flowers. Teenagers rode bicycles to school instead of looking bored and hopeless. The recreation center lobby was packed with visitors. Reporters from major newspapers and television networks had come to document the transformation. Government officials from the state capitol wanted to see if this model could work in other places. Educators from universities across the country had come to study the Excellence Academy programs. But the most important guests were the people of Tichy themselves. They filled the lobby wearing their best clothes, proud to show off what their community had become. Dorothy Mae Jenkins, now 81 and still sharp, sat in a place of honor near the front. She wore a new dress and a corsage that Michael had sent her. Beside her sat Earl Thompson, who at 67 had been elected mayor of the new and thriving Tichy. Reverend Washington, now 73, stood at a podium preparing to give the opening prayer. His great-granddaughter Destiny, now 10, sat in the front row wearing her Excellence Academy uniform, a crisp white shirt and blue skirt that all students wore with pride. "Friends," Reverend Washington began, his voice strong and clear. 2 years ago, this town was dying. Our young people were leaving. Our businesses were closing. Our hope was fading. Today, we gather to celebrate not just new buildings, but new life. The crowd of over 500 people listened quietly as he continued. But before we celebrate, let us remember that this miracle began with one young man honoring his father's promise. Let us thank God for Michael Jordan, who could have forgotten us but chose to remember where his family's roots were planted. Everyone applauded as Michael stood and waved. But he looked uncomfortable with all the attention. When the applause died down, Michael took the podium. "Reverend Washington, thank you for those kind words. But I need everyone to understand something important. I didn't create this miracle. You did." He gestured to the crowd of local residents. Sarah Martinez and her teachers created educational programs that are now being copied by schools across America. Dr. Santos and her medical team have created a health clinic that serves as a model for rural healthcare. James Henderson and his construction crews built these beautiful facilities with skill and pride. But Michael called out Ruby Henderson, whose diner had expanded into a full restaurant. None of this would have happened without you. Mrs. Henderson, that's not true. This happened because a community decided to dream big and work together. I just provided some of the resources. Maria Santos, now 20 and home from the University of North Carolina for the ceremony, stood up. Mr. Jordan, I'm finishing my second year of college because of the scholarship you provided. But more than that, I'm succeeding because the Excellence Academy prepared me better than I ever imagined. Next month, I'll graduate with honors and start teaching here in the fall. The crowd cheered for Maria, who had been the first scholarship recipient and was now becoming the first college graduate to return as a teacher. Maria represents exactly what we hoped would happen, Michael said with pride. Young people getting excellent educations and choosing to come back and strengthen their community. Scottie Pippen, who had become a regular visitor to Tichy, stood up. Michael, let me tell you what I see when I come here. I see middle school students taking high school level courses. I see high schoolers taking college classes. I see teenagers who are confident, articulate, and ready to take on the world. Dr. Jennifer Martinez, who had been running the Excellence Academy for a year, added, our test scores are now among the highest in North Carolina. But more importantly, our students are curious, creative, and kind. They're everything we hoped they would become. What about the other goals? Asked a reporter from the Charlotte Observer. Has this project helped other communities as planned? Michael smiled. That's one of the best parts of this story. The Small Town Renaissance Foundation has now approved projects in 12 other small towns across 6 states. Communities from rural Alabama to small-town Montana are adapting our model to fit their own needs. Magic Johnson, who had also returned for the ceremony, stood up. And it's not just in America. I've been contacted by people in other countries who want to try similar programs. What started in Tichy is becoming an international movement. But let's focus on Tichy today, Michael said, because I have some important announcements to make. The crowd grew quiet, waiting to hear what new surprises Michael had planned. First, I'm happy to announce that the Excellence Academy has been so successful that we're expanding it to include a high school program. Starting this fall, students can complete all 4 years of high school right here in Tichy, while taking college-level courses. Parents and students cheered. No more sending teenagers away to bigger towns for high school. Second, 3 major companies have decided to open branches in Tichy, bringing over 200 new jobs to the area. These aren't low-paying jobs. They're technology and business positions that will provide good careers for families. More cheers filled the room. Jobs that would keep families together. Third, the University of North Carolina has agreed to open a satellite campus here in Tichy. Starting next year, students can earn college degrees without leaving their community. The applause was thunderous. College degrees available right in their small town. But Michael held up his hand. I have one more announcement. The most important one of all. The room fell silent again. Today, I'm announcing that the Jordan Family Trust is transferring ownership of this entire campus to the community of Tichy. You now own your school, your clinic, your recreation center, and all the programs. This belongs to you forever. People were crying, hugging each other, and applauding all at once. Michael was giving them complete control of their own future. But Michael, Dorothy May called out, her voice shaky with emotion. What if we make mistakes? What if we can't run everything properly? Michael walked over to her chair and knelt down. Mrs. Jenkins, you've already proven you can run everything properly. Over the past 2 years, community volunteers have been taking on more and more responsibility. You're ready. He stood and addressed the entire crowd. I'll always be here to help when you need me. But Tichy doesn't need someone from outside running your community. You have the skills, the knowledge, and the heart to control your own destiny. At that moment, Keisha Williams stood up. Mr. Jordan, now I have my surprise for you. She walked to the podium, no longer the shy 10-year-old who had approached him with her grandfather's basketball 2 years ago. Now she was confident, articulate, and obviously well-educated. 2 years ago, you asked me to keep my grandfather's basketball safe, she said, pulling the old, worn ball from a special bag. You said it would be important someday. She held up the ball, its leather still cracked and faded despite careful care. This ball represents where we came from. A time when kids had big dreams but few opportunities. Then she pulled out a brand new basketball, shiny and perfect. This ball represents where we are now, a time when every dream is possible. She walked to center court of the recreation center's main gymnasium, where a special display case had been set up. Carefully, she placed her grandfather's old basketball in the case. "Mr. Jordan," she announced in a clear, strong voice, "on behalf of all the children of Tichy, I want to present you with this new basketball. It's signed by every student in our school. And we want you to know that someday, we're going to make you as proud of us as you made us proud of ourselves." Michael took the new ball, his hands shaking with emotion. As he read the messages written all over it, tears began streaming down his face. "Dream big, Marcus Thompson, future engineer. Thank you for believing in us. Destiny Washington, future doctor. You changed our lives forever. The class of Tichy Eagles soar high. Maria Santos, future teacher." And in the center of the ball, in careful handwriting, Keisha had written, "You kept your daddy's promise. Now we'll keep ours." Michael couldn't speak. He just held the basketball and cried, overwhelmed by the love and gratitude of the community that had become his second family. Rev Washington came to the microphone. "Let us pray," he said softly. "Dear Lord, thank you for bringing Michael Jordan to our community, not as a famous athlete, but as a loving son honoring his father's memory. Thank you for showing us that miracles happen when people care about each other. And thank you for proving that small communities can dream big dreams and make them come true." As the prayer ended, Michael looked around at all the faces, children who now believed they could become anything, parents who had hope for their families' futures, elderly residents who had lived to see their community reborn. "My father's letter said that Tichy gave our family roots," Michael said through his tears. "He said it was time to give you wings. Looking at all of you now, I think you're ready to fly." Keisha grinned and bounced her new basketball. "Mr. Jordan, we're not just ready to fly, we're ready to soar. And we're going to take everything you taught us and use it to help other communities too." As the ceremony ended and people began touring the completed facilities, Michael realized that his father's mysterious envelope had contained much more than money or instructions. It had contained the secret to true success, the understanding that lifting others up lifts yourself up too. The circle was complete. The son had honored his father's promise. The community had been transformed. And now a new generation was ready to carry the message of hope and possibility to communities everywhere. The little town that had given the Jordan family roots was now ready to give wings to the world. 5 years had passed since Michael Jordan first stepped onto Dorothy May's front porch with his father's envelope. Now, on a warm September morning, Tichy was hosting visitors from around the world who had come to see what everyone was calling the Tichy Miracle. A large banner hung across Main Street that read, "Welcome to the 5th Annual Small Town Renaissance Concerts." Cars with license plates from 42 states and 3 countries filled every parking space. Hotels in nearby towns were booked solid with educators, government officials, and community leaders who wanted to learn how to transform their own struggling communities. Michael stood on the steps of the Tichy Community Center, watching buses unload visitors. At 57 years old, he looked exactly the same as the day he first arrived, but his eyes held a deep satisfaction that came from seeing impossible dreams become reality. "Mr. Jordan," called a familiar voice. Keisha Williams, now 17 and a senior at Tichy Excellence Academy, jogged up to him. She had grown into a beautiful young woman, tall and confident, with the bearing of someone who had never doubted she could achieve anything. "Good morning, Keisha. Are you ready for your big presentation today?" Keisha grinned. "I've been practicing for weeks. I can't wait to tell everyone about our peer tutoring program and how we're helping other schools start similar programs. What about your college applications? Have you heard back from any schools yet?" "I got accepted to Harvard, Stanford, and Duke," she said casually, as if getting into the nation's top universities was no big deal. "But I'm still thinking about staying here for my first 2 years at the UNC satellite campus. I want to help train the next group of student leaders before I leave." Michael smiled. This was exactly what he had hoped would happen. Young people so confident in their abilities that they could choose to stay or go, knowing they were prepared for either path. "Keisha, your grandfather would be so proud of who you've become. Mr. Jordan, I think about him every day. Sometimes I sit in the lobby and look at his old basketball in the display case. It reminds me that dreams can come true if you work hard and don't give up. As they walked toward the conference center, Michael noticed how the town had continued to evolve. Main Street was now lined with thriving businesses. A new bookstore displayed works by local authors. A technology company occupied a building that used to be empty. Young families pushed strollers past flower gardens that community volunteers maintained. The most remarkable change was in the people themselves. Adults walked with confidence and purpose. Teenagers spoke articulately about their future plans. Even the youngest children seemed to understand they lived somewhere special. Inside the conference center, over 800 people filled the auditorium. The morning's first speaker was Dr. Jennifer Martinez, who had transformed the Excellence Academy into a model that was now being studied by educators worldwide. Good morning, everyone. Dr. Martinez began. 5 years ago, I moved to Tichy to help start an educational program that many people said was impossible. Today, I want to share what we've learned about giving children in small communities access to world-class education. She clicked to her first slide, showing test scores and college acceptance rates. Our students now consistently score in the top 5% nationally on standardized tests. But more importantly, 100% of our graduates go on to higher education, either 4-year colleges or specialized trade programs. A woman in the audience raised her hand. Dr. Martinez, I'm from a small town in Montigny. Our community has only 600 people. Is this model scalable to communities even smaller than Tichy? That's an excellent question. We've worked with communities as small as 400 people and as large as 5,000. The key is adapting the programs to fit local needs and resources. Marcus Thompson, now 14 and one of the Excellence Academy's top students, stood up from where he was sitting with other student ambassadors. Ma'am, I can answer that too. My cousin lives in a town in Montana with 500 people. We help them start a student exchange program where their kids spend summers here learning advanced math and science, and our kids visit them to learn about agriculture and environmental science. The woman from Montana looked amazed. A 14-year-old helped design an interstate educational exchange program. Marcus nodded matter-of-factly. Yes, ma'am. When you give students real responsibilities, they come up with incredible ideas. The next speaker was Dr. Patricia Santos, who had expanded the medical clinic into a regional health center that now served over 15,000 patients from 6 counties. Healthcare and education work together. She explained. Healthy children learn better. Educated families make better health choices. In Tichy, we've seen childhood obesity drop by 40% and academic performance improve by 35%, simply by integrating health and education programs. A man from Texas asked, Dr. Santos, how do you fund comprehensive healthcare in a small community? The Tichy model combines several funding sources. The original Jordan Foundation provides baseline funding. Federal and state programs cover qualified families, and local businesses contribute because they understand that healthy, educated workers benefit everyone. But most importantly, added Maria Santos, who is now 25 and the head of community outreach, we train residents to be health advocates for their own families and neighbors. Prevention is much less expensive than treatment. After lunch, the conference's most popular session began. It was called Student Leadership in Action. It was run entirely by Tichy students. Destiny Washington, now 15 and student body president, took the microphone first. Adults' souls talk about preparing young people for leadership someday. In Tichy, we don't wait for someday. We lead today. She gestured to a group of her classmates. These students have started businesses, organized community service projects, and helped design educational programs that are being used in schools across the country. A boy named James Henderson Jr., the contractor's 16-year-old son, stepped forward. I started a construction training program for middle school students. We build playgrounds and repair homes for elderly residents. Last year, we saved the community over $50,000 in construction costs while teaching kids valuable skills. A girl named Ruby Martinez, Sarah Martinez's 17-year-old daughter, added, I created a mentorship program where high school students tutor elementary kids. But it's not just about academics. We teach them that learning is fun and that they can achieve anything they set their minds to. An educator from California raised her hand. These programs sound wonderful. But how do you ensure quality and safety with students doing such advanced work? Keisha answered, Ma'am, We have adult supervisors for everything we do, but they guide us instead of doing the work for us. When you trust young people with real responsibility, they rise to meet your expectations. Plus, added Marcus, we learn from our mistakes. Making mistakes is part of learning. Adults in Tichy understand that, so they let us try things and figure out solutions. The afternoon's keynote speaker was unexpected. It wasn't Michael or any of the other adults who had started the project. It was Dorothy Mae Jenkins, now 86 years old but still sharp and determined. She walked slowly to the podium, using a cane but refusing any help. The entire auditorium fell silent as this tiny elderly woman prepared to speak. "My name is Dorothy Mae Jenkins," she began in a voice that was soft but clear. "I've lived in Tichy for 86 years. I watched this town die, and I watched it come back to life." She paused, looking out at the hundreds of faces listening to her every word. "You've heard a lot of impressive numbers today. Test scores and graduation rates and economic development. But I want to tell you about something more important than numbers. 5 years ago, children in this town went to bed hungry sometimes because their parents couldn't find work. Today, no child in Tichy goes to bed hungry. 5 years ago, teenagers looked bored and hopeless because they couldn't see any future for themselves here. Today, our teenagers are confident and excited because they know they can become anything they want. 5 years ago, families were moving away because there was nothing here for them. Today, families are moving to Tichy because they want their children to grow up somewhere special." Her voice grew stronger as she continued. "You want to know the secret of the Tichy miracle? It's not money, though money helped. It's not buildings, though buildings were important. The secret is that someone believed in us when we had stopped believing in ourselves." The audience was completely silent, hanging on every word. Michael Jordan could have given us money and walked away. Instead, he stayed and became part of our family. He showed us that we had value. He helped us remember that small communities are the heart of America. She looked directly at Michael, who was sitting in the front row with tears in his eyes. "Michael, you honored your father's promise. But more than that, you taught us to make promises to ourselves and keep them. You taught us that when you lift up others, you lift up yourself too." The applause that followed was thunderous and lasted for several minutes. People were crying, including many of the tough government officials and business leaders who had come to study economic development statistics. When the applause finally died down, Dorothy Mae had one more thing to say. "To all you visitors from other communities, I want you to remember something. The Tichy miracle didn't happen overnight. It took 5 years of hard work, patience, and faith. But if we can do it, you can do it too. Don't let anyone tell you that small communities can't dream big dreams." As the conference ended that evening, Michael stood outside the community center, watching visitors board buses to return to their hotels. Many were already making phone calls, excited to start similar projects in their own communities. Keisha walked up beside him. "Mr. Jordan, do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't opened that envelope?" Michael considered the question. "Sometimes, but then I remember what my father always told me. Everything happens for a reason. I think I was supposed to come here. I think this town was supposed to teach me lessons I couldn't learn anywhere else." What kind of lessons? That success isn't about what you accomplish for yourself. It's about what you make possible for others. That the best investments you can make are in people and communities. That when you give people hope, they can achieve miracles. As they talked, other community members joined them. Sarah Martinez, now the superintendent of a school district that was studied by educators worldwide. Earl Thompson, who at 72 was still mayor and had been invited to speak at the United Nations about small community development. Rev. Washington, now 78 and still the spiritual heart of the community. "You know what I'm proudest of?" Michael asked the group. "What?" several voices asked. "I'm proud that you don't need me anymore. Tichy is strong and successful because of what you've built together. That's exactly what my father hoped would happen." Ruby Henderson, whose restaurant was now one of the most popular destinations in eastern North Carolina, smiled. "Michael, you'll always be part of this family. But you're right, we've learned to stand on our own feet." As the evening stars came out over Tichy, Michael realized that his father's envelope had contained the most valuable gift possible: the opportunity to plant seeds that would grow and spread for generations. Tomorrow, Representatives from 12 new communities would begin the process of starting their own Renaissance projects. The model that began in one small North Carolina town was now spreading across the globe. But tonight, the people of Tichy went to sleep knowing they had become something they never thought possible. Teachers and leaders who were helping other communities find their own paths to hope and success. 10 years had passed since Michael Jordan first drove down the dusty streets of Tichy with his father's mysterious envelope. Today, on a perfect October morning, the town was celebrating something nobody had imagined possible. The grand opening of the Tichy Institute for Community Excellence, a permanent center where people from around the world came to learn how to transform struggling communities. The institute occupied a beautiful new building on the edge of town, designed by students from the Excellence Academy's Advanced Architecture program. Its glass walls and modern design stood as a symbol of how far the town had come, while its gardens and walkways honored the simple, caring spirit that made the transformation possible. Michael, now 60, stood in the institute's main hall watching the final preparations. His hair showed touches of gray, but his eyes still held the same determination and warmth that had first won over the people of Tichy a decade ago. Mr. Jordan called a confident voice behind him. He turned to see Keisha Williams, now 22 and the institute's youngest program director. She had graduated from Harvard with honors in education and community development, then surprised everyone by returning to Tichy to help run the global outreach programs. "Good morning, Keisha. Are you ready for today?" Keisha smiled, carrying herself with the poise of someone who had briefed United Nations officials and advised government managers on community development. "I think so. We have over 1,200 guests coming from 47 countries. The translation equipment is set up, all the workshops are prepared, and our student ambassadors know their roles." How many communities are now using some version of the Tichy model? As of last month, 47 communities in 23 countries. Some are small towns like we were. Others are urban neighborhoods, rural villages, even refugee camps. The basic principles work everywhere. Invest in education, provide healthcare, create opportunities, and most importantly, believe in people. As they talked, other familiar faces joined them. Marcus Thompson, now 19 and a junior at MIT studying engineering, was home for the opening ceremony. He planned to return to Tichy after graduation to help design sustainable infrastructure for developing communities worldwide. "Mr. Jordan," Marcus said, "I wanted to thank you again for everything. Last month, I used what I learned here to help design a water treatment system for a village in Guatemala. The engineering skills I learned at the Excellence Academy made it possible." Marcus, that's exactly what we hoped would happen. You're taking what you learned here and making the world better. Destiny Washington, now 20 and studying medicine at Duke University, had also returned for the ceremony. "Mr. Jordan, I've been accepted into a program that will let me spend my final year of medical school working in rural communities that need doctors. I want to help start medical clinics like Dr. Santos built here. Destiny, your great-grandfather would be so proud." Reved Washington always said the best way to honor what you've received is to share it with others. As the morning continued, delegations from around the world toured the Tichy campus. A group of mayors from small towns in Ireland walked through the Excellence Academy, amazed at teenagers who spoke multiple languages and conducted scientific research. Officials from rural Japan visited the medical center, taking notes on how to provide quality healthcare in isolated communities. Educators from Brazil observed the student-led mentorship programs. But the most moving part of the day came when the original residents of Tichy shared their stories with the international visitors. Dorothy Mae Jenkins, now 91 and still mentally sharp despite needing a wheelchair, held court in the institute's main auditorium. Her great-great-granddaughter, 8-year-old Hope Williams, sat beside her, occasionally helping her great-great-grandmother with her notes. 10 years ago, Dorothy Mae began, speaking to an audience that included ambassadors, university presidents, and development officials. This town was dying. Our children were leaving because there was no future here. Our businesses were closing. Our hope was almost gone. She paused, looking out at faces from every continent. But one young man remembered where his family came from. He could have forgotten us, but instead he chose to remember, and that choice changed everything. A woman from Kenya raised her hand. "Mrs. Jenkins, what advice would you give to communities that want to transform themselves, but don't have someone like Michael Jordan to help them?" Dorothy Mae's eyes twinkled. Honey, you don't need Michael Jordan. You need to find the Michael Jordan that's already in your community. Every place has people who care about their neighbors. Every place has young folks with dreams. Every place has elders with wisdom. The magic happens when you bring them together around a common purpose. But what about the money? Asked a man from Bangladesh. The financial investment here was enormous. The money was important, Dorothy May acknowledged. But it wasn't the most important thing. The most important thing was that someone believed in us. Someone saw our potential when we couldn't see it ourselves. Maria Santos, now 30 and the principal of Tichy Elementary, stood up from the audience. If I may add something, Mrs. Jenkins is right about belief being the key. But there are ways to start transformation even without major funding. We've helped communities begin with small steps: tutoring programs, community gardens, skill-sharing workshops. Big changes often start with small actions. Earl Thompson, now 77 and recently retired as mayor, nodded from his seat. Maria's right. We started changing before Michael ever gave us a penny. We started changing the day we decided to dream again. The afternoon's main event was the formal dedication of the Institute. Michael took the podium to address the international audience, but his words were directed at the people of Tichy who filled the front rows. 10 years ago, I came here carrying my father's promise, he began. Today, I stand here watching that promise grow into something beyond anything my father could have imagined. He gestured to the Tichy residents in the audience. These people taught me the most important lesson of my life: that true success is measured not by what you achieve for yourself, but by what you make possible for others. Sarah Martinez didn't just become an excellent educator, she created educational methods now used in schools on 6 continents. Dr. Santos didn't just heal the sick, she designed healthcare systems that serve millions of people in developing countries. Keisha Williams didn't just get a great education, she's now helping design educational programs for refugee children worldwide. Marcus Thompson isn't just studying engineering, he's solving water and infrastructure problems for communities that have struggled for generations. Michael's voice grew stronger as he continued. The young people of Tichy are now doctors in Africa, teachers in Asia, engineers in South America, and community organizers in Europe. They're carrying the lessons they learned here to every corner of the world. In the audience, parents beamed with pride as they heard about their children's global impact. These were kids who 10 years ago had seemed destined for lives of limited opportunity. But perhaps the most important thing this community taught me, Michael continued, is that transformation is contagious. When people see what's possible, they start believing in their own possibilities. He pulled out a familiar object, a basketball. But this one was different from the ones that had marked important moments in Tichy's journey. This basketball was covered with signatures and messages in dozens of languages. This basketball was signed by representatives from every community that has implemented some version of the Tichy model. There are signatures in Spanish from villages in Mexico, Arabic from towns in Jordan, Swahili from communities in Kenya, and dozens of other languages. He tossed the ball gently to Keisha, who caught it with practiced ease. Keisha, this represents the global family that grew from the seeds planted in your small town. What do you think we should do with it? Keisha stood up, holding the ball that represented the worldwide impact of their local transformation. Mr. Jordan, I think we should put this ball in our display case next to my grandfather's old basketball. One represents where we came from. The other represents where we're going. The audience erupted in applause as Keisha walked to the Institute's lobby, where a permanent display told the story of Tichy's transformation. She carefully placed the global basketball next to her grandfather's worn leather ball. The symbolism was perfect. The past and future connected, the local and global united, dreams passed from generation to generation. As the ceremony concluded, Michael found himself standing with the 3 women who had been most important to his journey. Dorothy May in her wheelchair, still the wise heart of the community. Sarah Martinez, whose educational innovations were now taught in universities worldwide. And Keisha Williams, who had grown from a shy child with a worn basketball into a confident leader helping communities across the globe. Michael, Dorothy May said softly, your daddy would be so proud, not just of what you did, but of what you helped us become. Mrs. Jenkins, I think my father knew this would happen. I think he knew that when you plant seeds in good soil with caring people, those seeds grow into something beautiful that feeds the world. Sarah Martinez looked around at the international visitors, still engaged in animated conversations about bringing Teachy-style programs their own communities. Michael, do you realize what you started here is now bigger than any of us? This movement has its own life, its own energy. It doesn't depend on you anymore. Sarah, that's exactly what I hoped would happen. The best gift you can give people isn't dependency, it's the ability to create their own success. Keisha smiled, still holding another basketball, her practice ball that she carried everywhere, a reminder of the girl who had dreamed of something better. Mr. Jordan, I have something to tell you. Next month, I'm traveling to Rwanda to help establish an institute for community excellence there. They want to adapt our model for post-conflict community rebuilding. Keisha, that's wonderful. But are you sure you're ready for such a big challenge? Mr. Jordan, you taught me that we're always ready when we have the right preparation and the right heart. Besides, she grinned, I learned from the best teachers in the world, the people of Teachy, North Carolina. As the sun set over the institute's beautiful grounds, Michael walked slowly through the town that had become his second home. Main Street bustled with restaurants and shops owned by local families. The school campus glowed with lights from evening classes and community programs. The medical center's emergency room sign reminded everyone that quality healthcare was available 24 hours a day. But the most beautiful sight was the children playing in the streets and parks, laughing and dreaming, completely confident that their futures were limitless. They played games and spoke of becoming doctors, engineers, teachers, and community leaders. Some talked about traveling the world, others about staying in Teachy to help it continue growing. All of them believed without question that they could become anything they wanted to be. At the center of town, where his grandfather's house had once stood, Michael stopped under the old oak tree. A bronze plaque had been placed there, reading, "In memory of James Jordan Sr. and Jr., who taught their family that success means lifting others up." Their promise, kept by their son and grandson Michael Jordan, transformed a community and inspired the world. Michael reached into his pocket and pulled out a worn envelope, not the original his father had given him, but a new one he had prepared. Inside was a letter to his own children, explaining the lessons he had learned in Teachy and asking them to continue the work of helping communities transform themselves. Some promises he had learned were meant to be passed from generation to generation. As he walked home to Dorothy May's house, where he still stayed when visiting Teachy, Michael Jordan realized that his father's mysterious envelope had contained the greatest treasure possible: the opportunity to discover that true wealth comes not from what you accumulate, but from what you give away. The little town that had given the Jordan family roots had indeed learned to give wings to the world, and those wings were now carrying hope, education, and transformation to communities everywhere that dared to dream of something better. The circle was not just complete, it was expanding, touching lives and changing communities in ways that would continue for generations to come. The mysterious envelope that Michael Jordan carried to Teachy, North Carolina, contained more than money or instructions. It contained the secret to true success: lifting others up. Lift yourself up too. Where are you listening from today? We'd love to hear from viewers around the world. If this story inspired you, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more amazing true stories of kindness, transformation, and the power of keeping promises. Most importantly, share this video with your friends and family. In a world that sometimes feels divided, stories like Michael Jordan's remind us that when we believe in each other and work together, miracles really can happen. Who knows? Maybe you'll be inspired to look for ways to transform your own community, just like the people of Teachy learned to do. Thank you for listening, and remember, every act of kindness, no matter how small, has the power to change someone's life forever. Until next time, keep spreading hope and making the world a little brighter, one story at a time.